We thought we warned this as a special town meeting to take a vote on whether the voters would authorize another $100,000 in addition to the $500,000 that was voted on March 7th in the Australian ballot to finalize the purchase of a new fire truck. We found out today that the meeting wasn't properly warned. And so any vote that we took this evening could be challenged. So we're going to have to re-warn this meeting and hold it on June 26th is what?
June
I have 26. Wait, June 28th. But we thought, since you're all here, I brought my slideshow from my trip to Walmart. I thought you'd probably like to watch that, but we could use this meeting as an informational meeting. So any questions about the fire truck or anything about the vote, we have representatives of the fire department here. And so that's what we thought we could do with this meeting. And I'm turning it over to our esteemed moderator, Cindy Jerome.
Thank you, Zeke. Good evening. I am Cindy Jerome, and it is my privilege to serve as your town moderator. So I welcome you to this Dummerston information meeting. It's not a town meeting. There'll be no voting tonight, no making of motions or amendments, but it is an opportunity for you to ask questions about the article that is before us. Lynn, did you have a question that's
Well, I just was wondering if, maybe not at all, but I didn't know if you could have an informal vote that wasn't holding, but you got a sense of what the people that are here were thinking.
I don't think that's a direction we would go. We're gonna just
Okay.
treat this as an informational meeting, and then on June 28th, we'll vote.
Okay, great.
Yes, Dan?
Can I start with a ponderance question for everybody? So my name's Dan, I'm a resident, I'm a member of the fire department also. And my question was, we're talking about financing this fire truck, and I believe it's the only town-owned vehicle we have that we finance, is that correct?
No.
No, we finance all of them? So my question was, we have a schedule for replacing the fire trucks, but we fund it in fewer years than that. And going back the last two trucks to this one and one previous, that's been the case. And it seemed to me as a taxpayer that it's added some unnecessary wavering to our budgets annually. So if we've got 8 years worth of truck, it seems like.
And there's a capital budget, you'll see in the town.
That's what I'm
report,
referring to.
where all the town trucks, all of the major purchases are evened out. And we may spend more some years than others, but we raise a relatively steady or accelerating amount each year, so it doesn't affect the tax.
I understand how a capital budget works, and I'm referring to our capital budget when I'm proposing this for everyone to consider. If you look at our 10-wheeler, our dump trucks or whatever, it says, international dump truck, 10 years, and it drags the line for 10 years to fund that truck. And then it says fire truck, no number of years, and we fund it in a much smaller amount of time, even though it's a much larger purchase than our other pieces of equipment. So we've got 1 tons, and maybe Lee's here can explain the duration there, but we fund our fire trucks in a much shorter amount of time than we fund all of our other large pieces of expensive highway equipment.
Okay, I'm
just
gonna
curious
hold on
why
to your
it is.
question, and I'm gonna pull it back in, and I'm gonna read the article, so
Okay.
we know exactly what we're considering, and then we'll go from there. So the article that we're considering tonight, as Zeke explained it, can we have quiet in the hallway, please?
There are people still trying to get in, there's a sign in,
There's
so there's a line outside.
I
to get
see.
in.
Okay. If anybody in the hallway would be willing to come take these seats so that others can be close enough to hear, that would be wonderful. Thank you. You'll recall that at town meeting, we approved $500,000 on the ballot for a fire truck. The article before us this evening is, shall the voters approve up to $100,000 in addition to the $500,000 approved by Australian ballot on March 7th to complete the purchase and financing of a new fire truck. So Dan, you asked a question about whether the financing could be spread out. And I should say, I'm kind of getting off track here. If you are a Dummerston resident, you may speak. If you are not a Dummerston resident, the body can give you permission to speak, but you need to identify yourself that way. I'm going to use our usual rule of each person may speak once, and then I'm going to see if anybody else wants to speak before I'll call on them a second time. If there are people who can answer a question for us because of their particular fund of knowledge around town business, and they can answer the question in a neutral way, then I will call on them repeatedly if they can provide us with helpful information. So now we have a question on the floor.
If people would like to come up to the front and sit down on the rug, there's more space up here.
He said they could sit on the floor. So we have a question. Paul?
Just a procedural question. I'm wondering, there are a lot of people who came here tonight with the idea of having information as well as voting.
Yes.
And I'm concerned about what was the procedural deficiency in the warning that's causing us to have to do this again?
What happened was, we thought the warning should have been put in the Commons. And we thought it had been, but it turned out it hadn't been. And so when someone brought that to our attention this afternoon, we scrambled around and looked at what we could do. We could take a vote tonight, but we would have to have another vote on the vote that we took tonight in 30 days. So we thought, let's just do information tonight and then just one vote, final vote, a month from now, or however many days from now.
I will add, my understanding is that there was some confusion over whose responsibility it was to place that notice. Okay, I'm going to come back to Dan's question and then I'll start calling on other people. Is there someone, perhaps Charlotte, perhaps someone on the select board, who can speak to the question of, is there any reason that we finance fire trucks for 5 years instead of a longer length of time that we might use to finance other major purchases? Yeah, Charlotte.
The select board can approve the acquiring of a loan 5 years and less. So why, I don't, and we've always financed the trucks, or at least the two since I've been treasurer.
The fire department trucks.
Right.
Okay, and is it true that we finance road department trucks? Where's Lee?
No, they're part of, they're always paid for in full out of the capital budget.
Ah, so the only things we're financing are the fire department trucks?
Yes.
Yes.
That and the gravel pit.
Okay, here's your answer. Okay,
Thank you.
yes.
I was just wondering if you could.
I'm sorry, could you state your
sorry.
name?
I'm
Thank you.
Larry Pratt. I'm the secretary with the fire department and Dummerston resident. I was curious if you could read the original article. Do you have that handy?
Yes,
Not tonight's article? Because I have some questioning on the wording.
of the original article that
I
was
do.
voted in on March 7th.
I do.
That's not something that we can reconsider tonight, but I don't see any reason why we can't read it again if anybody has their town report. And you do. Thank you. All right, so it looks like it's Article 5. Shall the voters authorize the purchase of a fire truck at a price not to exceed $500,000 and to authorize the financing of said fire truck through promissory notes not to exceed a term of 5 years, and to authorize payment of debt service from the capital fund commencing in fiscal year 2025, 2026.
So my second part of that question would be, it says and to include, and financing, not to include financing. So I'm wondering why we're even having a second vote. Approve 500,000
For the purchase and to authorize
and
financing.
financing, not to include financing.
There are two things we voted on. They were paired. We're gonna buy the truck, but unlike town trucks that we pay with cash, instead, we wanted the voters to approve financing it as well.
Okay,
And both parts were passed.
but it doesn't
in
say
the
the
same-
500 has to include financing.
I would rule otherwise,
That's just
but,
my take as a taxpayer, not from the fire department. That's how I read it.
but we didn't have 500,000 to pay for it, so that's the financing. I'm sorry,
No.
this has been approved as written. I think there was general agreement of what its intention was, and its wording was the same as everything we've always done in the past, so I don't think we can parse that out and say, interpret it differently than we did at town meeting.
Okay.
Good point.
Yes.
We checked with VLCT, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. It gives us legal advice. And they thought that we had to come back to the voters. If, if it was going to be 500,000 and, an extra $5,000 or something, the select board would have the discretion to borrow funds out of our general account to do that. But with the interest, with the truck coming in at just under 500,000, we thought there would be 63,000 or more dollars in interest payments. And that was more than the select board had discretionary powers to raise without a vote of the public.
I wonder if someone can speak to the issue of why the cost is more than was assumed before. Is that something you can speak to, Rick, or do you want to deputize somebody else to?
Garth Brooks, could you speak on that? He's manufacturing the fire truck for us from E1.
Seriously, Garth Brooks?
Yep.
So Garth, you are not a Dummerston resident, is that right?
Not a Dummerston resident.
We can't speak now. There's a lot of people in the hall. Could you speak as loudly as possible?
Yes.
Thank you.
I asked Rick to explain to us why the cost has increased. He is asking that we allow Mr. Garth Brooks to speak. Garth is not a resident of Dummerston. Is it the sense of the body that it is reasonable to allow this gentleman to speak, given his position as being in charge of financing from the company that's building the truck? Is that more or less?
I have the franchise for the company that's building the truck for the state of Vermont.
Okay. Could you stand and state your name again and speak loudly and tell us what we need to know?
So I'm Garth Brooks. I'm the owner of DeSource Emergency Products. We have the franchise for E1 in the state of Vermont. And Chief asked me to speak. I apologize. I get that comment a lot. So as everybody has seen post-COVID with inflationary pressures, what we've seen in the fire truck industry is about a % increase in truck prices per month for the last 36 months. So that's how you get to the inflated price or the shortfall in the budgeting to purchase the new truck, if that makes sense. And I can expand on that if anybody needs me to.
We have questions. I saw your hand, sir.
I'm Dan Normando. An obvious follow-up question, and I apologize because I haven't been involved until tonight on this one issue. Why wouldn't this have been anticipated?
Can you answer that, Garth? Why would this not have been anticipated before we set the warning last January?
Because where does the inflation stop, I think, has been the question that we've struggled with as this country for the last 36 months. I was told by several people 2 years ago that it was going to stop, and it just continued to increase. And I was, not trying to upset the fire department or you're really chasing a rabbit here. We haven't taken an inflationary adjustment since November of 2022. And my concern is that price adjustment is somewhere around the corner. It's a moving target, nobody knows if that makes sense.
So prices have not gone up since November, but before our truck is built and delivered, you expect that it will go up.
I'm concerned it will go up before you purchase the vehicle, sign a contract. The struggle with the industry is that long lead times and uncertainty of supply chain drives cost, if that makes sense. So we're trying to be proactive with our pricing to cover our suppliers and deliver the truck at this contracted price.
If you'll allow me, I'll just do a follow-up question. Is there any reason we can't sign the contract right away and then the price will be locked in?
And why wasn't it signed? And yeah, those kind of follow-ups would be great.
They have to be signed.
The select board has to sign it,
Well, why didn't they?
We didn't
because they're asking for more money now.
say, when we set the budget for this back in October, the price that we were given was around 430,000, 440,000. We thought asking for 500,000 would cover the interest. When it was approved on March 7th, they went to put in the order and were told that the price was now close to 500,000 without any interest. So that was the first, voters had to approve it. We couldn't sign it before March 8th.
Dan, you've already spoken. If you want to whisper your question and someone else can hear it. Is there anyone else who would like to follow? Harold?
Yes, I wondered why a contract wasn't signed when they ordered it.
Hasn't been ordered, is what we're hearing.
Well, I mean, it had to been, they knew they wanted it, and they had to have a price set on what they were getting.
Well, they couldn't sign it until town meeting voted on it, right? And by then, the price had gone up.
So you can have a contract before the town meeting, it's just,
I don't think so, not until we say yes. Can they sign a contract?
Let's hope so.
Yes, Jody.
Jody
State your name,
Normando.
please. Thank
Jody
you.
Normando, Dummerston. I have several questions, but I'll start out with one. But I'll say, first of all, I think that the fire department does a wonderful job, and it's a thankless job. However, this is a hell of a lot of money, and asking for more, I think, is a lot on our tax rate. One of the questions that I have is, this is a volunteer fire department, so it's confusing to me as to if it's a volunteer fire department, why are the Dummerston Select Board and the Dummerston people paying for all this amount? Over the last 5 years, I think there's been, an awful lot of money put in to the fire department, $878,400 according to the chair of the Select Board. And I do not see anywhere, I know back when there were some organizations that were requesting money from the Select Board, and the Select Board told them that they had to present their budget to the Select Board in order to get any money. Now, I don't know whether that's still happening or not, but we have not seen a budget from the fire department. And I know that they get money from other places or whatever, and I think that if we're gonna give all this money to the fire department, we should really be able to see their budget and see it in the town report. And I would like to request that. Thank you.
Would anyone like to speak to Jody's comment?
Jody,
Please.
what do you mean by just a volunteer fire department?
Rick?
Rick Lewin, Fire Chief of West Dummerston Fire Department, Dummerston resident.
You need to make your inquiries of me rather than talking
Okay.
with Jody. Do you
I'd like
want to
to-
stand up and
yeah, I'd like
say
to-
what you think?
I'd like to understand what you mean by we're just a volunteer fire department.
May I respond?
Could you answer her
Yeah.
question and then?
Well, we have not been asked for our budget from the town. Our treasurer's not been asked, and I have not been asked. So that's what we have given up, but we're gonna have it out for everybody to see,
That's great.
okay?
Well, that would be great if you would do that, Rick.
Yep, thank
I'm
you.
gonna ask a follow-up question. What do other volunteer fire departments that are not town employees do in terms of buying fire trucks?
The town gives it to them.
That's the
And
typical.
we're, can I extend with that, please?
Please.
We try to do our best we can to keep the fire truck costs down. A lot of people think we get fire trucks with bells and whistles, but if you wanna go to our neighboring mutual aid towns, you will see our trucks are not bells and whistles. We're saving this town what we could get for a real fire truck, over $300,000 for a real fire truck that's safer, getting them in there safer, and have better turn radius, higher ground clearance, and get more equipment on it. I think we do pretty good for this town. And all our guys are not paid, and we're doing, everything we do is for you people in this town, and we do it out of the goodness of our heart. And we're just asking for a low price of a fire truck, I think is pretty small potatoes for what we do for you people.
Okay, you're the expert, and I'm gonna encourage you to try to answer questions
Okay.
neutrally.
Yeah,
But I think
sorry.
we hear you. Thank you. So, Gail.
Gail Sorensen from Dummerston. I appreciate Jody's question. I appreciate very much the fire department because we never know when we're going to need those services. But I am concerned about what I call the lack of transparency. I've asked for the budget and I understand in your bylaws that they cannot share any financial information unless the membership votes on it at a membership meeting. I would expect that the select board would have asked for the budget over the years. I don't know if that's happened or not because of the amount of money that the town has contributed to the fire department. So I would like to formally request that you consider looking at your bylaws again and releasing at least budget information. I'd like to know if there was any surplus from this last year. May not be very much, but could that go partially to the advanced cost? And I think we would have other questions in terms of what's in the budget too. So, thank you.
Thank you, Gail. I think we've gotten a commitment from Rick that the budget will be forthcoming. Is that right, Rick? Do I
Yes, yes it
understand?
will.
Thank you. Yes,
Just to piggyback a little bit on Rick and Gail, I had a conversation with her today. It is our plan to release the budget. The only thing that would stop us is if our governing body said no, we don't expect that to happen. But we can't just stab our members in the back by going behind their back and behind our bylaws and not taking a vote on it. But we do plan to vote on that at next month.
Okay.
Good,
All
thank
right.
you.
Question, Paul.
Paul Namigo. My question revolves around the difference in pricing again, which I think is of concern to most people here tonight after having voted for 500,000 at town meeting. And maybe this goes back to, maybe this should go to Garth, but and I also said, Zeke mentioned that with the increase by town meeting or after town meeting, I thought you said it was around, it approached 500,000, is that correct? But this is requesting an additional 100,000. Was it kind of an insurance policy? Is that how you're looking at it? And I guess my primary question is this inflation due to supply chain factors? Or is it, general inflation throughout the economy has been in the realm of 4, 5, 6%. Certainly not in the realm of 20% per month. And so what's so particular about fire apparatus or equipment that's running it at this level?
Paul, before I call on Garth to answer you, I'll repeat what Zeke said, that the difference was the interest,
Right.
which is over and above the price, which has climbed to 440 or 460,000. So the interest over and above that is going to push it past the 500,000.
Well,
Did I understand that right?
The truck, when we went to order the truck on March 8th, the price of the truck had increased to close to 500,000. So the interest on top of that is part of that 100,000 that voters are being asked to approve.
Okay.
So let me see if I understood that correctly. You said the price of the truck is now approaching 500,000? Okay. So that's since town meeting, and again, the question becomes, why wasn't that anticipated? And why wasn't the contract, which is already passed, but why wasn't the contract placed once town meeting had approved it?
Zeke just said that when they went the next day after town meeting to place the order, that's when they were informed that the price had increased.
When we set the budget, the price that we were given was 440,000. When we went to place the order, or when they went to place the order on March 8th, the price had increased to 500,000.
It seems like there should have been some communication going prior to town meeting saying, hey, you know, guys, you might want to adjust your town meeting request or your budget so that, because that's what we're going to be voting on, and things have changed. Anyway, thank you.
So Garth, Paul started by asking about supply chain issues, the source of that much inflation, and then ended with communication. Is there anything you'd like to speak to there?
I'll just speak briefly. So,
If you
the
could
price-
stand so people could hear you better, thank you.
the price increase is twofold. It's the global inflation, and then there is a piece of it that's supply chain. I can't separate those numbers out per se. And a fire truck is still a customized vehicle. We build the truck to the Dummerston specifications. Not everybody has their own specifications. The challenge with the supply chain in the fire industry is everybody uses the same motors, everybody uses the same transmissions, everybody uses the same fire pumps, same axles, so on and so forth. So obviously it's supply chain challenges, right? Historically in this country, there's about 3,500 fire trucks purchased by municipalities annually. In 2022, there was 9,000 vehicles ordered, which just aggravates the problem.
So would it make sense to wait?
Paul?
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not a conversation. Christy, I saw your hand.
Yes, Christy Turner, Dummerston. I was just thinking, if we just umbrella this over a little bit about reality. So it's almost been 6 months from the time you had your price.
Could you stand and
It's
start over
almost
again,
6
Christy?
months since you received your price in October or November, and then if you just take what the feds have done for interest rate, they've upped it, I don't know how many times since that time. I'm gonna guess about 4 or 5 times. So that's out of anyone's control. And that's a huge difference on a large sum of money like that. So I think that's a little bit about what you're trying to push across. Is that right?
Can't hear.
Okay. I was just saying. I was just saying
Christy,
that.
can you stand? That's gonna really help.
I'm good at standing. I was just saying that it's been almost 6 months since they actually put the price in and agreed to do it, brought it to town meeting. And from that period, it had already gone up. And then when you take what the federal government has done in regards to interest rates, and we all know this, if your house mortgage was 4%, it's a lot more now if you're going for a house. So if you take that based on the $440,000 and just add that increase in interest alone, that's huge, part of this 100,000. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that, because I think that's what the select board was trying to say.
Thank you. Behind Lou, I saw your hand.
Steve Tavella, West Dummerston resident. My question is, this is a significant expenditure. First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation for the fire department, as others have. But this is a significant expenditure, and 20%, to me, the math isn't working there. Inflation's coming down, understandable with everything else going on, that prices are going to increase, but we're looking at 20% here. With such a significant purchase, are there not multiple bids? Why aren't we getting multiple bids, and why only locally? Why are we not looking around at multiple bids and seeing? When I shop for a car, I shop in multiple places and try to get what I want at the best price.
Thank you. Rick, do you want to answer or designate someone else to answer, did we get multiple bids? And I wonder if, as is true for some things, if the price might come down soon, if that's a possibility. Could you stand, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've been doing business with E1 for over 30 years. Us in the town, fire department, have been working with E1 for quite a long time, and we like their pricing. And we go to other companies, and the prices are real high, and we're getting a real good fire truck with other companies could have a lot higher prices, so that's why we stick with E1. They're up from Vermont, we deal with, so that's who we use, and the other companies, if we go to Pierce or anything like that, we're gonna be paying a lot of money. So that's where we keep the cost down, we get a Class A great fire truck from E1, and we've been having them since 1990. Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Lou.
Lou Sorensen. I too appreciate our volunteer fire department and particularly all the individuals that give their time to answer the call and support the organization. $440,000 or whatever the start was is a lot of money. 500,000 is a lot of money. 600,000 is even a lot more money. And I'd like to know from the fire department, what is Plan B? If the town doesn't authorize 600,000, will you get a lesser truck for 500,000? And maybe part of that also, what is the value of the truck being replaced?
I'm not sure about what the value of the truck is yet. It could be around 20 to 25. And whatever the sale price of that old truck, old engine 3, it's a 1999 Freightliner, the town gets that money back from the sale. If we gotta go to Plan B, is we'd have to go back to the department. I can't make that decision for the department. So we'd have to go back to the drawing board, see what we'd have to do then.
Would you get a lesser truck?
We can't get much of a lesser truck to do what we have to do to fight fire for the town of Dummerston.
Yes.
Hi, Michael McGillian, Dummerston Town resident. Thanks everyone for showing up. I think it's great to see some civic participation. I'm just wondering what the lifespan of the truck is that's being replaced, and I'm not that familiar, I guess, with the improvements that might be happening from the truck that's being replaced to the, I imagine it's slightly upgraded, but I don't want to make assumptions. So I'd like to know what the life expectancy and lifespan of the truck is that's being replaced, and B, what kind of improvements are happening with the new truck.
Garth, would you like to speak to that?
I did that. Thank you.
I recall you saying that it was a 99 truck that we're
Yes.
replacing, so 24 years old.
So there's a nationally recognized guideline that mandates fire departments, NFPA 1901. So in the eyes of NFPA, there's a 20-year lifespan period, and that's what people try to work around and use as a gauge, if you will.
Yeah.
The truck the gentlemen are trying to purchase does have some upgrades. It's got a larger fire pump, and that's primarily for durability. And then it has a larger water tank, so it carries more water, so it can do more in an emergency.
Right.
Yes, in the back, standing in the back.
Yeah, Todd Davidson, also a Dummerston resident. So I read through the emails and I just want to I want to see if I can find out from the financing folks or whoever ran those numbers. The $68,000 is the total interest payments, I think, over the course of the loan, which my back of the envelope, using my phone here back here, is only about 2.4% over 10 years. So it's not that high of an interest rate. Also, I think the truck was at $499, and someone in the fire department pulled off some, I think, firefighter equipment. Is that what FF equipment is? Off the truck, the purchase, which saved like $20,000. So that brought it to $479. And if they sell the truck for $20, then they give it to the town, that's $459. So we're at $440, we originally thought. We're down to $459 at 2.4% interest over 10 years. That seems pretty reasonable, unless I'm doing my numbers incorrectly.
5 years, 5-year
5
loan.
years. Okay. So double the interest rate. So under 5%. So what is the interest rate on the loan? That's really the question. Where are we financing it?
Who can answer that?
Select board.
Yeah.
We don't.
Charlotte?
Charlotte Annis, the town treasurer. When we got the DeSorcy, and I don't have this number because I think I have the right number. When we got that bid, I went to Community Bank, which is our bank, and asked them, what if we were to get a loan today, what rate would we probably get? And I think she came back with 3.9%, which was 2 points less than what DeSorcy had quoted us. But we're still 2 years out, so who knows what the interest rate is gonna be in 2 years.
We're not 2 years out.
Well,
Yes, we're looking at the truck until then, and that's when the financing starts,
Okay, I can ask you a
as I
question.
understand it.
well, it was my understanding we were 2 years out, that we wouldn't take delivery till 2026, 2025, 26.
5, 6, that was in the original article in terms of financing. So is there anyone who would like to speak who has not yet spoken?
I have a really easy question. What happens if we don't do it?
That was asked by Lou,
Oh,
and Rick's answer was, we'll go back to the drawing board.
Oh.
But he made the point that there isn't a cheaper truck that can do what they need this truck to do.
And how long, one more follow-up, how long is this truck expected to keep doing what trucks are supposed to do?
Well, we kept this
For 20 years?
25 years.
Yeah.
And this truck is gonna be a truck at the center station, which is only one truck there. And we added more water to it because there's only one truck for mutual aid to come, or trucks to come from the West Street station over there to help that crew out with water. If there was a potential house fire or something, we can do a lot more damage with a fire when it does more water. So, it was just making it a lot easier, and because we only have one truck at the center station.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who's not?
All right, 20 minutes later, Tammy Elliott, West Dummerston. I just want to say thank you to the volunteers who are at the fire station. And I know this is a lot of money, but I want you to think about the value of your property, your house, and you would take that on yourself. We're looking at the fire station, this truck as a whole community, supporting that, and they're taking care of all of our homes. So I just want you to think that way. That's it.
Megan, Dummerston resident. The other thing, just to
Say
kind
your
of,
last name also.
okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Just to kind of piggyback what she just said, not only are they protecting, your properties, but they're also putting their lives on the line and their families to leave, whether it's Christmas, wherever, they go. It happens all the time. They go and they're putting their lives on the line to save possibly yours or your families. So just to kind of piggyback what she had said.
Thank you. Anyone else who hasn't spoken yet would like to speak? Sam?
Sam Farwell, West Dummerston. I just have a quick question about the ownership of the truck. I don't know if it's owned by the fire department or the town. Could you clarify that? And the financing, who owns who takes the loan? Is it the town or the fire department?
The town pays the loan. I believe the truck.
Louder, Z, please.
Okay. Ask this.
They're gonna ask you to stand up.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna call on Charlotte.
The most recent truck that we financed the title is in both the town of Dummerston and the Dummerston Fire Department. It's in both their names.
Okay, thank you. And the town owns what?
Those two names.
Yes. Yes, Lou.
Hello, Lou Nelson. I also am very grateful. Thank you to the fire department. I'm just curious if the select board has considered holding the vote by Australian ballot rather than by, as it turns out, a second in-person meeting.
I'm Lori Frechette, the town clerk. If we were to do that, we would need to hold a special town meeting in person to vote to authorize.
That's not true.
No, that is true. We had to do it one other time when we voted on the new fire station.
The legislature gave permission to have Australian ballots up to 2024. Would that include a special meeting?
I don't know. I can check on that tomorrow.
Great.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken wish to speak? Yes.
Couldn't the,
Could you state your name, please?
yeah, sure, sorry, Jared Clark, Dummerston. Couldn't the June 28th meeting be used to decide to vote via Australian ballot?
If that's the way it was warned, yes. If that's what you chose to do.
Zeke?
Procedural question for the town clerk. But if we did that at that meeting, would we then have to warn the meeting another 30 days out to have the Australian ballot?
Yes.
Okay, so we'd be talking 60 days before we had a decision.
Okay, seeing no other hands from someone who hasn't spoken before, Dan, I think you were the first to raise your hand a second time.
Thank you. I was remiss in saying this when I made my first comment. I absolutely appreciate the fire department. I have, and I don't think anybody here would ever say they didn't. And it's an amazing thing that you guys do. I am frustrated, and then probably other people are frustrated because of how this played out, and maybe there was no way to stop it. I don't know, but I would like to see the process go smoother next time, as I'm sure the select board and the fire department would. And I'm confused as to why, if what I thought I heard earlier was that from the supplier that they haven't changed prices since the fall, but then I hear that prices have changed. So I also understand in the world right now that some industries are incredibly hard to gauge what the future is, but you should make an assumption about that assumption shouldn't be zero inflation. There ought to be something in there, some contingency factor. I feel like I'm going to support the purchase of a new truck, but and we all should, but I would really like to see the process be improved so that none of those of you in the hot seat, so to speak, and those of us out here don't have to feel that frustration, if that's possible.
Steve, I saw your hand next.
Yeah, back to the bidding process. In my professional work, I manage very small budgets. But when I have to make certain purchases over a certain amount, and have worked for nonprofits, my board of directors requires me to put forth 3 written bids. So I'm going to ask the town this time, why doesn't the town require, this is $500,000. We've been saying 500, 400, $500,000. That's a lot of money for a small town. And I support the Dummerston Fire Department. It's wonderful. Why aren't you requiring 3 written bids, at least, or 2?
Any purchases that the town makes, dump trucks, graders, roofing on a building, anything over $10,000 has to come with 3 bids. The West Dummerston Volunteer Fire Department is a separate nonprofit, not affiliated with Dummerston
But you can,
government.
they're asking for our money. You can
Steve,
require it.
Steve. I think that's been heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'd be a second.
Jody, I'm gonna call on you next, but I'll get back to you, Christine.
Jody Normando again. One of the things that I question is I've heard talk about regional districts. And I happened to talk to somebody up at Putney about their fire department and whatever. And they're kind of in the same situation, but they're part part volunteer and part town. I don't know how they do that, but, and I think Wyndham Regional is doing some lookabout to the select board or the fire departments about the possibility of doing things regionally, so that you would be sharing in the cost of these new fire trucks as well as everything else that's going on. And I don't know if they have talked to the select board, I don't know if they've talked to Dummerston Volunteer Fire Department, but that might not be a bad idea. For example, we live over the mountain on the other side. And we're still in Dummerston, but we live over to the other side. And probably, I don't know, but Putney may get to our place before, although I have had the rescue from Dummerston come to my place, and they got there pretty fast. And maybe with Newfane and Brattleboro, and we've got all this going on. And I think Westminster is a regional district. So I think it's something to think about, not this year, not on this vote, but I think it's something to think about down in the future. It may sound funny coming from me because I was totally against, and still am, the consolidation of schools. But you know, we may think about, and they don't call it consolidation, we just call it a district, a sharing district. So put that on your thinking cap.
Thank you. Katie?
Catherine Gormley from Dummerston, and I'm hearing a lot of consternation about rising prices and why didn't this happen, or could we do something better? And so this is food for thought for next time. We should learn from this. I'll give you some context. Over 2 years ago, I was looking to purchase something for my home, and it was expensive, so I waited, and then I thought, well, I can't find anything better, and so I put my bid in to purchase it, and they said thank you, and oh, by the way, the price had gone up 30%. And I was frustrated, just like all of us are frustrated, and I needed what I was purchasing, and so I'm just thinking, okay, this is inflation, and it was inflation. The cost of producing the good was that much more. So I need it, and I purchased it at 30% increase. And I think we need this fire truck. This is a company that has proved good for Dummerston for years, and we can complain about this, but when push comes to shove, we need it. As you have said, our homes, our lives are at stake, and we have volunteers helping us. And I mean, we can put a price on it in one way, and it's an extra $100,000, but in other ways, the cost of our homes would be devastating to replace. So we want to empower, I think we want to empower the fire department to do the best it can, and it looks like you've been shopping around and that you're trying to be cost conscious. So I'm thinking, now there's the question, Australian ballot, well, that's 60 days at least. Here we are, and we've gone through this for almost an hour. I'm going to recommend that we vote now and that we vote in favor.
We're not going to vote tonight.
Oh.
But I hear you saying that we should make up our minds. Yes, Louis.
Louis White. I have a question for Gareth, if that's all right. Do you folks refurbish trucks where you're at? And what about refurbishing the truck? The last truck, I believe Townsend bought from the town, and I think that's their frontline truck now. So I'm just curious about a refurbishing of a truck, if this doesn't pass, if that's a possibility, and if this company does that.
Thank you, Louis. Garth?
Yeah, and historically in the past, there's been some refurbishment done to vehicles. Towns is actually in the market to replace the truck that they bought from Dummerston in the next 30 days.
Are they waiting for this truck?
Looks like I gotta wait. So refurbishment is an option. It's a short-term solution. It's not, when you refurbish a vehicle, it's not a new vehicle. It's still an old vehicle with new parts on it. They can still have old parts that wear out, if that makes sense.
So Christy, you
Oh.
had your hand up.
Yes, I did, and I almost forgot. I just wanted to say Garth Brooks' name.
Could you
speak I almost forgot my question. It's been a while. I can take it offline, but I was just going to ask, just for curiosity, not for any other reason, but I too am very supportive to the fire department as well. Anyone that wears a uniform in service to our community and puts their life on the line has my heart. So, thank you, fire department. My question to you is, I know I bought some cranes before with my business partner, and there's only certain places you can get them from. You know, either go down to South Carolina, or you go up north and, there, or you go down to Connecticut, and that's it. It's not like you have a lot of choices. It's not like a car at all. It's not like a pickup truck. It's a very specialized piece of equipment. So I'm just curious, and that was my question. I was going to take it offline because it's just a question of curiosity more than anything else.
Can I speak?
Sure, briefly. Question of curiosity.
And he answered a couple of the questions in the room that were asked. So we're the only fire truck vendor in the state of Vermont. You have to have a special fire truck certification to do repairs on fire trucks. So it kind of goes hand in hand. We have no problem going to bid on a fire truck. The way of bidding has gone by the wayside post-COVID, and I have no idea why. Historically, my dealership has had 10 fire trucks on order at one time. Post-COVID, as of today, I have 62 fire trucks on order. It's mind-boggling. So the world has changed for whatever reason.
Lou?
Lou Sorensen. This is a bit of a roundabout comment. But this issue has had some rumble strips in the road in its progress so far. And some are organizational, some are procedural. I understand in addition there's a question about the nonprofit status with the state for the fire department right now. I hope that gets resolved quickly, efficiently. And we have a overflow crowd here tonight of town folks who are interested in the town's business. And that is wonderful. And I wonder, in March, we had Australian ballot only, and maybe some of the discussion that we're having tonight, had it happened at a regular in-person town meeting, we would have been farther along without the hiccups and issues that we're having to deal with now.
We might have avoided some of the hiccups, but what was on the warning, $500,000, was the price that we were working with and had warned. And so when the next day, when they went to place the order and it had increased, we would have had to come back and get voter approval.
But there might have been more discussion at town meeting.
It wouldn't have changed the price on the warning. Up until March 8th, everyone thought the price of $500,000 that was approved would cover the cost of the truck and the interest payments. It wasn't until March 8th, Wednesday, that we learned something different.
Jody?
I'd like to make a suggestion down the road. I see two blanks. One is for the year that we're going to be in for the budget we voted on. The next is the next year that's a blank. I would recommend that we put money aside that year And in the future, we continue to put money aside because we know this is gonna happen every 10 years, Rick? You like to do that?
Yep.
That we continue. And then we wouldn't have to pay the interest. We might gain some interest. So I would like to recommend that we put that to the town meeting vote when we have an in-person town meeting next March. Thank you.
So you're suggesting that we move more money each year into the capital fund so that we can pay cash as we do for our other major purchases?
Yes.
Would be a major savings to the town.
Just
Yes,
just one
Louis.
thing on that, I would say that if that was going to happen though, that we would have to see the financials of the fire department. If that was the case, to go that way. I would think that the town would really need to see that.
So that point could be made to your team when you bring this up next month, the question of disclosing finances. Yes, Stan?
I forgot the most important thing I wanted to say the second time, or the last time. I wanted to make a recommendation that the board, select board, looks into financing options and be creative about it and come up with a way to structure the organization if some changes need to be made. My point is, the town can bond, I believe, at a pretty low rate. That may be the wrong terminology, but you don't have to go. It would be nice if we could take advantage of the lower rates that are offered to municipalities, seeing as we're on the title of this equipment. So I would like you guys to have that on your agenda to talk about.
Lewis?
Louis White, can I just have you ask Dan a question? Does he ever listen to his mother?
We're not going there.
What did I do? I stood up, I enunciated, and now I'm getting scolded.
Yes.
This might have already been, is the price of this truck still going up as we speak?
Garth, would you like to speak to that? And I'm going to add to that. Is there any reason why
We can't lock it
we
in?
weren't told that the price
I'll
was?
explain it. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
thank you.
So a couple of my questions been asked, so to get a little bit of understanding. So we buy a commercial chassis from, in this case, International. We have no control over that pricing of the International third-party commercial chassis. We just build the fire truck piece of it. The fire truck piece of the price did not change. The price of the vehicle changed for the chassis only, which is a third-party chassis, provided chassis, if that helps with the understanding. I also want to give you this information because everybody's talking about planning and forecasting and whatnot. There is an EPA engine change coming in 2027. It's going to increase the price of fire trucks, plow trucks, dump trucks, $50,000 to $100,000 per truck. Now, that sounds really simple that it's January 1 of 2027. What that means is any motor that is built after January 1 of 2027 has to change. The question is, are the engine manufacturers going to run out of the old engines? Anybody following me?
Yeah.
So, a little urgency to the purchase to save costs and avoid. Because there are going to be winners that get the old engine, and there are going to be losers that have ordered trucks, and there's no engine to put in it, and you have to get a new engine.
Because of the length of time.
Because of the length of time and capacity.
Lou?
Lou Sorensen, follow up to that. Before this new truck wears out, will everyone be using electric fire trucks? And this all will seem nonsense, like a bucket brigade?
I want to rule that speculation, but Garth has his hand up, so.
I get one too.
So what I know about electric fire trucks is I can sell you one today for $1.8 million. It will go 60 miles before you need to plug it back in. I hope to never sell an electric fire truck.
slide and stick and
How many miles are on the truck that's the 99 that we're replacing?
I don't know I do not know the top of my head right now, but it's the hours of the pump.
Down to the floor.
Lucia's gone up. Yeah, 13,572 and 1,699 hours.
Okay. We don't put a lot of miles on them, thankfully, because we don't have that many fires.
Yeah, but what it is the hours on the pump when you're sitting at a fire. It's the hours on the pump we're doing. And with the water we draft out of ponds and rivers. So it makes it just very much harder for the pump to work. So then the pumps go like.
You got frogs in there.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Trapper, were you raising your hand or just adjusting your cap?
Dennis Frechette, Dummerston. Are we paying on the $500,000 on our taxes right now? Was that in the budget? Not at all?
No.
Okay. Because I wanted to know how much it was on an extra $100,000 per person, just so we could kind of have it in our head. Is it like $50? I mean, it'd be nice to know what the
Charlotte
extra
has-
$100,000 would be.
Yeah, Charlotte has left us, but the question is, how much more will each citizen pay for that 100,000? Can anybody take a guess at that?
Depends on what your house is afraid, so.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just
Well,
pass
we're
the hat
100,000
like right now.
Yes.
Rich Cogliano, Dummerston resident. I was on the department for about 15 years. I think the crux of the issue here for everyone is not how much we're spending, but the fact that we have a 1999 fire truck with body rust, with engine rust, with problems. It's been in the shop, the pump has been broken, and that truck is not safe anymore. So at some point, we need to replace it. Whether it's back in October for under 500,000, for now at 600,000, or 3 years from now at probably close to $1 million, right, Garth?
I hope not, but.
I hope not too, and I think all of us hope not. But the fact is, we need to replace the truck. Even if Garth were out of the generosity, find us a free fire truck, we would still have questions about it. I think at this point, my opinion, as just an informational thing, that truck needs to be replaced, and we need to do it so our firefighters are safe.
Yeah. Paul?
One question for Garth, based on what he just said about engines being changed in '27. Well, we have a truck we're gonna trade in, right? Why don't we save the engine? They don't rust on the inside. They may rust on the outside the engine block, but they don't rust on the inside. And with only 1,700 hours on it, you might wanna save the engine.
In 2050, it'd be really great.
It sounds like we're nearing the end of our meeting.
Let's take the time.
And I sense that some people are ready to go. I do see 2 more hands, 3 more hands. Okay, Jody, I saw yours. Oh, and Chuck.
One more question, Rick.
Yes.
Dummerston's all hills. Do we have a smaller vehicle, fast, what do they call them, fast alert or something like that can get to a fire before those big machines can get up over the hills?
Not really to carry the water. We got pickups that we use for rescue calls and a brush truck.
But you've got fire ponds along the way.
Yes,
Is
with
there-
standpipes, yes.
So
We
you
have
can
over 20 in town.
run up an empty truck and pick up the fire? I don't know, but you don't, your answer is no, actually.
That's not a.
Thank you.
Chuck?
I was just wondering, when Garth said that his company has 62 trucks coming on, I wonder if it's possible to buy shares in that company.
Again, folks, any more serious questions? And the jokes can wait until after we adjourn. Sorry. Yes.
I was just curious because someone had brought up refurbishing the truck. A question for Garth, I guess, would be if we decide or have to go that route, what that would cost, and would it really be worth it to dump money into an older truck?
I think he's answered that question and said no.
Did my question get answered about is the price going up still before we can vote? Or are we locked in at least at this big number?
Not until we sign a contract.
So it could be still going up and up while we're all playing games here.
Not until we sign a contract, is the price set. Yes, Larry.
So I guess
Could you stand,
before,
please?
yes, sorry. I guess before she closes out, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming. We really appreciate the support.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to adjourn our meeting, and thank you very much for being here and for your questions.